In all activities, just depend upon me, and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. And the purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. When one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as the master of the world. Just like a servant, one should act fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. A servant has no individual independence. He acts only on the order of the master. A servant acting on behalf of the Supreme Master is unaffected by profit and loss. He simply discharges his duty faithfully in terms of the order of the Lord. Now, one may argue that Arjuna was acting under the personal direction of Krishna, but when Krishna is not present, how should one act? If one acts according to the direction of Krishna in this book, as well as under the guidance of the representative of Krishna, then the result will be the same. The Sanskrit word matparaha is very important in this verse. It indicates that one has no goal in life save and except acting in Krishna consciousness just to satisfy Krishna. And while working in that way, one should think of Krishna only. Quote, I have been appointed to discharge this particular duty by Krishna, unquote. While acting in such a way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. This is perfect Krishna consciousness. One should, however, note that after doing something whimsically, he should not offer the result to the Supreme Lord. That sort of duty is not in the devotional service of Krishna. That sort of duty is not in the devotional service of Krishna consciousness. One should act according to the order of Krishna. This is a very important point. That order of Krishna comes through disciplic succession from the bona fide spiritual master. Therefore, the spiritual master's order should be taken as the prime duty of life. If one gets a bona fide spiritual master and acts according to his direction, then one's perfection of life in Krishna consciousness is guaranteed. So that's very encouraging. Chetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya matparaha buddhi yogam upasritya machchita satatam bhava. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshramilitamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Vanchikapacharubhyastha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasti Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Mary, you know, I've been in this tent there in Tongat for 4 days now, and there's a certain mood when you do a tent campaign and you're under the tent. There's a certain mood which comes in. It's a very, well, it's quite a lively mood, actually. Yeah. So we want you all to get into a little more lively mood, okay? So everybody, put your hands in the air. This is what we do in the tent. And I mean everybody, including you, yes. And you, yes. Anyone else? Okay. Everyone take a deep breath. And everyone say after me very loud, Hare Krishna! That was pretty good. I think you're better than the people in the tent, actually. Yeah, that's good. We should take a team along to challenge them tonight in the competition. Okay. Well, again, yes, it's very nice to be here with you. And just trying to share a little in Krishna consciousness here. Unfortunately, I'm going to be going away on next week Sunday. I'll only be back after a few months. But I will remember you all. Yes. And fond memories. Of course, you know one thing. In Russia, they're very fired up in the kirtan. You know, we got some fired up devotees in the kirtan here, but a lot of you sort of hang back a bit and more along the lines of spectators. So, you know, we've got to get into the kirtan. I want to take a video along and show them what the South African Phoenix devotees are like. You know, but we can't have too many sort of, you know, little kind of slack there in the background. We should try and get into it. That may be next time, okay? So you can warm up in the meantime, all right? We need some dancers and people who can really, you know, just ignite that mood. So here, this is a nice verse in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna's saying, in all activities just depend on me and work always under my protection. In the material world, the fact is that people, they don't have any idea of working under the protection of God. As far as they're concerned, it's just them. They are doing things themselves. They're doing things in their own ways. You know, the pride of it all. You know, one thing I was thinking? We were walking on the beach today. We went for a japa walk on the beach. You know, it was very nice. You should have all come, actually. It was very nice. We were walking on the beach. There was only one thing really that was a little funny. It wasn't too bad, but I noticed there's so many dogs. There are a lot of dogs. And people, you know, with the dog on the lead. And I was wondering, why are these dogs so popular? You know, why not cows? Why can't we have people out walking their cows? I mean, why just dogs? Why not something else, at least? Why dogs? because they're kind of crummy animals, really, in many ways. And then it struck me, at least one idea struck me, that was that dogs, they have this remarkable ability to appear to be fully under your control, and they're just totally dependent on you, and they'll stay with you and be with you and always turn around and look for you, and when you come home at night they come and greet you like you're just the greatest person, isn't it? I don't know if you're very familiar with dogs, but it's like that. Now, how many of you men ever had your wife, when you came home at night, just come running out and just completely head over heels? Or how many of you working ladies ever had your husbands do that? Just, I don't think so. But dogs, oh my gosh, when you come home at night, it's like, the best person in the world just arrived, and it's just so nice. It's just completely inexplicable. This is dogs. But they're dirty. Oh my Lord, they're dirty. We're staying at one place in Tongaat, and they have 2 dogs. And, I was sort of checking the dogs out a bit. And, I don't want to say some of the things that they were doing, but, I saw they were doing some things, and any person with half their head screwed on, you couldn't let a dog come and lick you in the face or lick you anywhere. Oh my Lord, don't do that. I won't talk about it because it's just not appropriate, but just the principle is, it's horrible. It's incredible. And they come and lick you, and you think, oh, how nice. Doggy loves me. So, I haven't figured it out from the dog side, what they see in human beings, other than food. But for humans, it seems to me, people like dogs, because it's like the dog loves you, and the dog is yours, and will do everything for you, and is so happy to see you. And people like that, because they want to feel, yes, I am very big, and people should bow down before me. So the dog does that. Once the dog sort of becomes a little attached to you, the dog becomes so servile, not humble really, but servile, and so dedicated to you. It's like you're really important, and you may not be very important. In fact, most people aren't. Most people are pretty sort of run-of-the-mill, really. But if your dog gets a little attached to you, then your dog treats you like you really matter. Oh boy. So therefore I think people like dogs. Yeah. Whereas cows, they're more nonchalant. Don't underestimate cows. They're intelligent. But, they're not as expressive. But here, Krishna is making a related point, that we should not be in this mood of being attached to people treating us like we're very high, but rather we have to come to that other point where we want to take the low position Yes, Lord Chaitanya said, what is our position? Gopi Bhatur Padakamalayur Dasa Das Anudas. That I am the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, the master of the Gopi milkmaids of Vrindavan. And Lord Chaitanya said that. Naham Vipro, I'm not a Brahmin. I'm not a Kshatriya. I'm not a Vaishya or Sudra. I'm not a sannyasi or vanaprastha or grihastha or brahmachari. I'm none of these things. I am just the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada, in commenting on that statement, Srila Prabhupada said that normally in material life, if you become the servant instead of the boss, then that is not really so good. And if you are the servant of the servant, well, that's twice as bad. And if you're servant of the servant of the servant, this is very bad. One man, I can't remember who it was, but one German playwright, whose name slips my mind, he said, I would rather be king in hell than servant in heaven. How's that? I'd rather be king in hell than servant in heaven. So of course, this is just complete foolishness, because what to speak of that? You know, I've mentioned on a number of occasions before, one time, one devotee was with Prabhupada trying to express some humility. And the devotee said, you know, when I go back to the kingdom of God, when I go back to Krishna, you know, I'm such an insignificant person. I'll probably just be a blade of grass. That's even less than being a servant. If you're just a blade of grass, you're just almost nothing. But Prabhupada, when the devotee said that I bet, you know, I'm so pathetic and useless, I'll probably just be a blade of grass and, you know, in other words, something stupid, he's thinking. To be a blade of grass is just something stupid, even in the kingdom of God. But Srila Prabhupada replied that, oh, a blade of grass? You would be so fortunate. You would be so fortunate to be a blade of grass in Goloka Vrindavan. And then Krishna comes and steps on your head. And you get some of his dust, foot dust, on your head. Oh, that is the perfection of life. That's more than the perfection of life. Because in order to achieve that, you have to, first of all, have achieved the perfection of life. So that is something superhuman, super mundane. But this foolish man was saying, Wagner, I think it was Wagner, I'd rather be a king in hell than a servant in heaven. So here in this verse then, Lord Krishna is trying to encourage us to develop this mood of humility. Not, as the man said, I think it was Frank Sinatra, that I did it my way. In other words, me, I'm really a tough fellow. I stand on my own and I do it my way. Well, this is not Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness means I do it Krishna's way. I do it Prabhupada's way. I do it my spiritual master's way. I do it the devotee's way. What will please the devotees? I do it that way. And not thinking that me, yes, I'm very good. I'm very qualified and powerful, and I can do so many things myself, and then I expect the credit. No. Krishna, earlier on in Bhagavad Gita, he says, what is it? Karmanye vadikaraste ma paleshu kadachana. That you are entitled to perform your duty, but you are not entitled to the results. That is for Krishna. So whatever the result is, that depends on Krishna, what he arranges, and it belongs to Krishna. Yes, it depends on him whether it will work out this way or that. And whatever way it works out, it's his. So what is yours? Yours is to serve. That is what is yours. Yours is to serve. You must serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then do your best. Try to please him. But know that you're not in control. And you cannot force a certain result. There are many examples. Actually, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's one verse which says, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, a blind man can see the stars in the sky. A lame man can climb mountains. And a child can understand the conclusive truths of the Vedic scriptures. Now, you might think that none of these things is possible. A blind man seeing the stars in the sky, he can't see the star, he can't see anything. A lame man cannot even stand up. And you're saying he can cross mountains. A blind person can see the stars in the a child can understand the conclusive truths of the Vedic literatures. We all know children. 5-year-old child, 4-year-old child. You know children like that. So what is the likelihood? How old is Sridham?
3.5.
3.5. You know Sridham? Ask him to explain the conclusive truths of the Vedic scriptures. Is he here today?
Yes.
Aha, he's here today, so you could try it out. Ask him. Oh, there he is back there. Hello, Sridham. Yes, with his 4x4, it looks like. He's ready for action. He's going to climb some mountains. But you can ask him, please explain some of the conclusive truths of the Vedic literatures, and let's see how he reacts. So you might think that, no, this is just, some emotional talk. Someone has got carried away. But no, what about Prahlad Maharaj? Right. He's a friend of Sridham's. Prahlad was only 5. But you read in the 7th canto what Prahlad said. Oh, he said so many things. So many amazing things. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu, smaranam padasevanam, achanam vandanam dasyam sakyam atma nivedanam. He explained the 9 processes of devotional service. That was Prahlad Maharaj. He was 5 years old. But he did like that. What about, have you seen this book? What is the name of that book? Oh, Simple for the Simple. You familiar with that book? No, it was Bhaktivala Puri Maharaj from Scotland. His wife, his late wife, She passed away from cancer at the age of maybe in her early 40s, probably, just a few years ago. But they were recording everything that she was doing before she passed away. And at a certain point, she lost her sight. Do we have this book around here? Simple for the Simple? You know that book? Okay. Anyway, there is this book, Simple for the Simple. And she was a devotee for many years, 25 years, and the wife of this devotee who is now His Holiness Bhaktivallabh Puri Maharaj, very great devotee and great preacher, sannyasi. So she was a very simple lady, very sincere lady. Anyway, she got cancer, she was dying. And as, in the months leading up to this, she went blind. She went blind. And she was sort of displaying symptoms of being in what you might call an altered state of consciousness. Like not quite in touch with reality sometimes, although very Krishna conscious. And she would tell the devotees what she was seeing, but she was blind. But she was seeing. And she was seeing Krishna and Krishna conscious things and devotees. It's all in this book. You should have a look at the book. I know they've got it in Johannesburg. It's very interesting, very inspiring. So even a blind person can see the stars in the sky by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. But Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami goes on to say that if you have not got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, then even easy things become impossible. So difficult. Even easy things you just do every day. If you haven't got the mercy of the Lord, we might think, yes, I do this, I do that, I do so many things, just me, I do them. But actually we're dependent on the mercy of the Lord. I'll give you an example, and you may be familiar with this example. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's the example of Keshav Kashmiri. You know about Keshav Kashmiri? Have you heard about him? Yeah? No? Anyway, Keshav Kashmiri, he was a big scholar, big Shastri. He knew so many verses. He could just rattle them off. Bhagavad Gita from beginning to end. So many verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. And then try to explain them in so many ways, with very good language and, expressed very nicely and so on and so forth, like this. So he was a big scholar, and unfortunately, he knew it. And he agreed, yes, I am a big scholar. I'm really a big scholar. In fact, he was very puffed up. He was very proud, indeed. So he would go around from town to town, challenging the scholars in the different towns, and then defeating them with his so many verses and so on. So he was doing like that. So he came to Navadvip, where Lord Chaitanya was living. And he wanted to challenge the local scholars, but they all heard he was coming. So they all suddenly had urgent business out of town. They all left. So there was no one there for him to debate with except Lord Chaitanya, who at the time was just maybe a 16 or 17-year-old young fellow, although he was teaching Sanskrit. So this puffed up, this arrogant Keshav Kashmiri, thinking, yes, I am so extremely qualified, and you are probably, just a complete schmuck in front of me. So Keshav Kashmiri, he came to Lord Chaitanya. Please forgive me, it's just my little sense of humor. He came to Lord Chaitanya and said, yes, Nimai Pandit, I have heard that you are a very good teacher of beginners Sanskrit. In other words, you're not very much at all, particularly compared to me. And Lord Chaitanya, he said, oh, I'm nothing. Compared to you, I'm nothing at all. So this man, though he wasn't satisfied with that, he wanted to debate, or anyway, show his expertise, his knowledge, and what a great person he was. So he said, all right, I will show you something. I will compose 100 verses glorifying Mother Ganges. So he did, on the spot. He composed and recited just like that. 100 verses on the spot. He didn't have to go home and, try and compose the verses straight out of his head. So, and it said that he recited them just like the blowing of the wind. It's just like overwhelming. So in the end, he asked Lord Chaitanya, so, how was that? And Lord Chaitanya said, well, you get a 10 rand fine for cell phone. First offense. Second is 20 rands. Anyway, Lord Chaitanya said, well, apart from all the mistakes, it was wonderful. So Keshav Kashmiri said, what do you mean, apart from all the mistakes? So then Lord Chaitanya explained about some of the mistakes. And there were some glaring mistakes. One that comes to mind was that he referred to Lord Shiva as Bhavani Bhartu. Bhava is Lord Shiva. It's a name for Shiva. Bhavani means Durga, the wife of Shiva. And Bhartu means the husband. So he described Lord Shiva as the husband of the wife of Lord Shiva. In other words, it appears that maybe she has two husbands, which is, not acceptable. So like this, Lord Chaitanya, the man was astonished. He couldn't believe it. That I thought these verses were perfect. What happened? Then he thought, no problem. I will now debate some logic and arguments and prove that I'm much more intelligent. So he started trying to express some clever argument. But it started coming out like double Dutch. Maybe like Afrikaans or something. Anyway, it just started coming out something stupid. Just something stupid. Like some fool was talking gibberish. And all the others there, they were looking at him like, what happened to you? Have you just lost your mind or something? And he heard it himself. And he thought, oh, what has happened to me? Then he thought, no, I'll try again. But the same thing happened. He started talking nonsense. Complete nonsense. So then he stopped. He realized, if I open my mouth again, I don't know what's going to come out this time. So, in this way, it was shown that if you don't have the mercy of the Lord, then even something which is normally very easy for you, it's very difficult, extremely difficult. I'll give you another example, it's just an interesting little historical fact, that one devotee was telling me that he was doing some exam in university, and he swatted everything up. He had it all practically verbatim, as they say, a walking textbook. So he thought, okay, I'm going into this exam, no problem. I'm just going to come through with flying colors. Oh, it's just going to be fantastic. So he sat down to do the exam. What happened? His pen didn't work. So he thought, oh, okay. He had another pen, though, a reserve. He took it out. The pen didn't work. He asked the next person. They gave him a pen. The pen didn't work.